Hi, this is Sarah from Aligned with Sarah. I'm here today to talk about 3 ways that you might not be realizing your subconscious mind is taking over and creating self-sabotage behavior. So, we're also going to talk about things to do about recognizing those issues and 3 ways and 3 things. So thanks for being here. I love sharing this information. I would like to talk just a tiny bit about how this journey arrived for me, this wisdom arrived for me. It's not a secret. I'm on this journey. Everyone's on a journey, really. I feel like any work that I offer, any insight that I have comes from a lot of hard work because I'm in a place where I want to be growing, I want to be changing, and I love sharing the things that have come together for me to help inspire change and hope in other people. So, yesterday I was looking for a video to do some tapping with the EFT that I love so much with recognizing what's going on inside and resetting it. So I was looking for a tapping video. I chose one that I wasn't crazy about, and I right away was like, I think this is my subconscious mind kicking this away from me. So I just continued to listen, and not at all part of the actual like tapping, but this woman, her direction said, we're going to be looking at whatever, whatever, and there's something behind that anger. There's something behind that emotion. And I thought, oh my gosh. And I even tried to like do the tapping, but I was so distracted by that thought of like, what is behind this really big experience? And so working to unravel that, it put together things to put together thinking that has come into this video. So it brought my awareness to the tendencies for self-sabotage. They all come from our subconscious mind, and I want to talk about them right now. So the number one thing that is self-sabotage is our instinct to find distraction. So it's not a secret, like 99% of the people that I talk to, any part of my practice, they know what they have to do and they don't do it. And there's this distraction that is usually their go-to thing. And people will just spew this information out I spend too much time on social media. I sit down and watch Netflix, and the next thing I know, it's 1 in the morning. I'm not getting enough sleep, this, whatever. A lot of people are connected to what the problem is. And I don't think that they realize that that distraction that they're aware of is self-sabotage. And so I touched on a couple of them. So the Netflix, right? YouTube, we're here. You're not going to watch 5 minutes of a video when you get on YouTube. Like the reality check is right there. Next thing you know, it's going to be a half hour later. Next thing you know, it's going to be, 7 videos later. Screen time is a huge distraction. Eating is another huge distraction. And I think sometimes people don't realize, I think they think that the eating itself is this journey into like self-worth, which it can be depending on what we're doing. But I think that I know that I get into a little bit of a habit when I'm not focused. I'm having a hard time focusing. I'm having a hard time getting through. When I have a few things to do, it's really hard for me to just get them done. I'm really good with pressure. I'm really good with like mounting responsibilities. And when there's only a few things going on, I tend to get really distracted. And one thing is getting up, leaving my desk area, leaving my work area, and finding something to eat. And even if I'm in my not at home office, I will find myself like having this hour that I could be really productive, but then it all of a sudden makes sense to me to like, go get lunch for in case I'm hungry later. And then it ends up in wasted time, wasted money, and the food is cold and it's gross, and I don't end up eating it anyway. But looking at our patterns of eating and seeing what is that keeping us away from, what is it distracting us from, and recognizing that it could be a self-sabotaging behavior. I mean, we do all have to eat and we all get hungry. But really connecting with where it's coming from, what it's keeping us from, is a really interesting thing to kind of let your mind have a journey into. Other things that we don't really think of necessarily as distractions, but I'm going to quantify it as one. Work. I think a lot of us use work as a distraction, where there's things that I don't want to do, and I use work as an excuse and a distraction that keeps me from doing those things. And they can be exercising or a lot of times I will use I'm like obsessed with learning and obsessed with reading. So I'd rather work on learning something new than, continuing that journey that I started with, the last 7 books that I read or the last 4 seminars that I attended and workshops and whatever workbooks that I have, instead of like being focused and continuing on a path that is obviously going to take me somewhere in self growth, the distraction of more work um, doesn't nourish that self growth. So, yeah, so those are some examples. There's many, many more, obviously, but finding distractions, being aware of what the heck those things are and how they're being so sneaky to get into disrupting our growth pattern that we're trying to establish. So, this next one is kind of a hot topic for me because the next two of them, I feel like they kind of interweave together. So, everyone has a go-to excuse, right? We don't have enough money, or we don't have enough time, or we're too busy. It depends on how you say it. You can say the same thing, 5 different ways from different angles. But a lot of people have a really go-to excuse. I'm too busy, there's not enough space. And I think that sometimes those things really do apply. We don't need every stimulation in our life to be coming into our life. But I think noticing how many times we say the same thing and how that becomes this like subconscious, this unconscious behavior, this reaction, not a response that comes from our heart. It's a reaction that comes from fear. So, really checking in on, do you have a go-to excuse? Like, what's your thinking right now that, do you have time for this? Is there other stuff you need to be doing? Like, is there another distraction that's getting your attention? And there's usually something that's threaded into that distraction of why you're going to it, if that makes any sense. Um, so, distractions. Everyone's got a go-to excuse that is there somewhere. Being aware of it is, 95% of the battle of moving forward to control it. So the last one that tags along with the excuse is a lot of us have this go-to major emotion that might be guarding us from some other experience, which is where the actual growth is. So I was saying the example earlier in this video that I was looking for a tapping video, and the focus was anger to really kind of connect um, like a journey into anger and getting it, removing it, balancing it, calming it, spreading it out, understanding it. And when that woman had said, "What is behind that emotion?" And for me, it was anger that I was working on. It really unfolded a lot because if I don't have anger, then maybe I'm feeling more pain. If I don't have my anger, maybe it makes me feel afraid. If I don't have my anger, there was this whole journaling that I did, just filling up pages and pages of information about what if that anger wasn't there? What is behind it? What is this like veil, this like heavy curtain? What does Oz really look like once we take away the fire and the brimstone? There's something behind that. And that's where the growth is. The self-sabotage is that like major emotion, which might be anything like blaming someone else, having anxiety, about a situation. Those things are this heavy veil that come down and kind of keep us resonating with the belief system that we have currently. Because what we have currently is what we know. It's been there for all these decades, it's been there for our whole lives, probably. It might just be there for the last 5 years. It's there to keep us safe, and it's there to keep us in a place where we're in our comfort zone. If we want to go away from our comfort zone, if we want to push into something new, if we want to have some growth somewhere in our life, we need to look what's behind that curtain. We need to look if it's a major emotion, if it's a go-to excuse, if it is this go-to distraction. How is that keeping us where we're at? So that's a lot to think about anyway. I'm going to throw three more things at you. So those are the three ways our subconscious mind kind of takes over and sabotages our growth. What to do about these things? So number one, my favorite thing to say and talk about is just recognize that it's there. We don't have to go through this like huge deal of beating ourselves up about whatever. It's just there. That's all. And you know what? The part moving forward is the part that matters. Right now matters. I recognize that anytime somebody offers me this piece of self growth, I instantly am like, I do not have time for this. I do not have enough money for this. You know, my significant other will never let me invest that much money. We have this thing going, we have whatever. There's something there, and recognizing it, recognizing even just the fact of like, do you go to distractions? Do you go to excuses, or do you go to emotions? Like even just recognizing where you're at in that much is a huge accomplishment. Because when we recognize it, then we know exactly where we're at, so then we can figure out a place to go, because right where we're at right now might not be where we want to be, and that's okay, because once we recognize that, then we can move into the place that we want to be. That's the beauty of just recognizing, and it's so simple. And simple does not mean easy, my favorite thing to remind people about, but it's very simple. So number two, my suggestion is then once it's recognized, work to quantify it. If your distraction is a screen time thing, then you know what? We have so much technology right here at the tip of our fingers, right at the edge of our fingertips. Is that the expression? Um, Download an app and just track your time on things, or even a little less tech. Set a timer that's not on your phone. Set a timer that's on the kitchen oven, or an egg timer if you even have one of those. Set a timer and be really true to your word. I'm going to touch base and check out Facebook for 30 minutes. I'm going to look at a YouTube video and I'm going to make sure it's not longer than 15 minutes. Set a time limit, or just be aware. If you have a go-to excuse, offer the awareness, set that intention of the awareness of how connected am I to the belief system that I don't have enough money. Being thankful for being connected to that, you will then become aware of your words. And when you're saying these things, you will hear them much more than when you were unconsciously kind of like just going through the motions of like, nope, 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 nope. So once we have that, once we recognize it, then we can pay attention to it. And quantifying it is really going to help motivate us into some other place. And then once we quantify it, we can also see patterns emerging. Um, and a lot of times when we see those patterns, we can like move into a place where those patterns are taking us away from our growth. Those patterns are taking you away from your growth. I'm going to say it for the third time. When we recognize it, we see the patterns, and then that pattern is a roadmap, which is growth is over here, and your patterns are taking you away from your growth. So you will have a map to where growth is, which is so beautiful. And lastly, I love this advice. Bob Newhart, I talk about his video a lot from Saturday Night Live. The last suggestion is stop it, which is that's just kind of a joke, but really just like stop it. So, if we have an issue with the screen time stuff, take those apps off your phone. When we don't have the app on our phone, we don't have the notifications. We don't have the constant distractions. We don't have the bings and the dings and the numbers and the symbols and all of those distractions every time we try to do something on our phone. Check the weather, check the time. Take the app off the phone. Um, Take your phone, leave your phone in your purse, in a locker. Put your phone in the kitchen, turn it off, silence it. Uh, Take action to set yourself up for success so you don't fall down those same avenues of knowing I get very distracted, or you know what, I have this excuse. I'm going to set myself up with information that is contrary to that excuse. I don't have enough money. Well, you know what? Really, when I look at this, I have a bonus check coming in. If I, do this many sales, I will have this much commission. If I stop buying Starbucks and, do my coffee and invest in a coffee maker at home. It's more time with my family. It's just this setting yourself up to work around those things that you've identified is huge. And those major emotions, exploring what's behind them, and then taking action to recognize what is behind that curtain. All those things push you into that place of self-growth, and they don't necessarily stop it, but they stop creating it, so then you can stop it later. So that's like that is in its own self-growth. That was kind of hard to say, but I made it through just because you were here. So that's a lot of information. This is a longer video, but I'm so glad that you made it through. I'm so glad that you're here. It's on YouTube, right? So you can just go back to it and click through and do whatever you need to do. But take that in, rewatch this video, really absorb it because there's a lot of great information there. And I believe that you can do it, but I can't believe more than you. So pay attention. Have any questions, please reach out to me. I love working with clients one-on-one, doing the restorative healing, really connecting to where we are, where we want to go, and what's keeping us from getting there. So I love to hear from anyone, comments, emails, reach out to me on the website. I absolutely love it. So thanks again for being here. This is Sarah from Aligned with Sarah, and I will talk to you again very soon.